So, hi, it's me, Miss Nicole or Nicole, whichever you prefer to call me, and welcome to another Interactive Fiction Adventure Club. This one, we're going to be doing a book called Could You Escape the Tower of London, an interactive survival adventure. I don't know if this one is going to be spooky. Actually, I should. It says, face your fears in a way you've never seen them before. Choose what path you will take through the scariest escape situation. Follow the story of a visitor, temporary or permanent, as you try to make your way to freedom. So this building, the Tower of London, which I have not visited in the times I've been to England. I've been stuck on my grandmother's couch, just like visiting relatives. It's some place that I've always wanted to visit. I was really excited when I saw this book. If this is your first time in an interactive fiction adventure club, this is not a book I read cover to cover. We read to a certain point and then we have to make a choice. And to do that, I use this. And when I roll and I get a even number, a 2, a 4, and a 6, that means I go with the bottom choice. And if I get an odd number, the 1, the 3, and the 5, I go with the top choice. So this would be a really spooky adventure, hopefully. Fingers crossed. So we're going to start with about the adventure, but what I like about this book, it also has the map of the Tower of London. So it's not just like one structure, like one like standalone tower like Rapunzel's, and it is a little more complex than that. So if you check this out, you can examine the map more closely. But I'm going to start about your adventure, and then we'll go into the actual adventure. So about your adventure, you are about to step foot in the most famous fortress in the world. In the past, it served as home to kings and queens, the United Kingdom's royal mint, and even a zoo. It has kept a vast collection of weapons, books, and even the crown jewels of the United Kingdom. And it's housed prisoners who spent the rest of their lives behind the walls of the tower. The choices you make will determine whether or not you will become a prisoner yourself. Will you sneak past the prison guards to your freedom, or be trapped behind the tower walls forever? You choose the path of your next adventure or your next failure. Chapter 1, The Famous Prison. The Tower of London has long history and served many purposes. First built as a stronghold for early monarchs, the tower walls helped cement their rule over the land. The central structure, the White Tower, is the oldest building. It stands at nearly 90 feet high and has walls of 15 feet thick, and is one of the most famous castles and castle keeps in the world. An inner and outer wall frame the White Tower. 20 other towers line the walls. Entrances in the walls and towers called gates allow visitors to move about the castle. Oh my gosh, I'm struggling today. A large moat surrounds the outer wall. Throughout history, the moat has been filled with the water from the River of Thames. The Tower of London has served as a seat of the power of the United Kingdom and have been home to the kings and queens. But it's well known as a prison and stayed in a place of torture. Starting in the early as the 1100s, spies, traitors were locked up there. No ruler is without enemies. There is always someone who wants to grab the power of the throne for themselves. But for not every attempt can be successful. And after dust settled, the nobles who have failed need a prison. A royal castle, the Tower of London, is the perfect location. But the traitors, royals, and their supporters are not the only inmates. Corrupt government officials, thieves have been held there too. Trying to cheat or rob from the crown is highly punishable crime. Those who defy the church can also find themselves behind the bars. These prisoners, called heretics, may suffer a horrible experience. They have often endured painful torture. The Tower of London is not a place where you want to be sent, or why you're so why are you going? Are you a traitor to the crown? Are you persecuted for your beliefs? Are you headed there to visit a friend who's locked up? So this one actually gives us 3 choices, and we are still going to use this. So if we roll an even number, we're going to choose from the bottom 2. If we roll an odd number, we're going to choose from the top 2. So if we're in the traitor and spy, we turn to page 11. If we're persecuted for religious, we turn to page 39. And if we help a friend escape, we turn to page 71. So let's see. Okay, so I got 2. So we're going to choose between being persecuted for religious reasons and help to plan a friend of escaping. Okay, and then we got a 4. So we are going to try to orchestrate a prison break. Wow, okay. Go us. Helping a friend escape. It is a scary time in England. People you once thought as friends have turned on one another. One remark made at the wrong time can be dangerous or even deadly. You're about to see the consequences of trusting an untrustworthy today. In your pocket, you carry a note from a good friend. It reads, I've been accused of a crime, imprisoned in the Tower of London. Please visit if you can. You're worried about your friend, so you decide to go. You know that the tower has a bad reputation. Prisoners there have been brutally tortured or worse. Some are even publicly executed for their crimes. Luckily, your friend has not committed any religious crimes. Usually, it's only heretics who receive the worst treatment. Traitors and thieves are also treated less harshly. If they are wealthy, they even hold parties when they're imprisoned. Your friend isn't lucky enough to be a noble, but like most prisoners, your friend is free to have visitors. So we have to decide if we're going to visit William or Alice. So let's change. All right, so we got a 1. So we are going to be visiting our friend William. When a queen or king dies without an heir, sometimes Parliament chooses the next monarch. That is how George Louis became George I after the death of his cousin Queen Anne. But some thought James Francis Edward Stuart had a better claim to the throne. After all, he was Queen Anne's younger brother. Your friend William was among those who supported James. He joined a failed rebellion against the king. For that, William has been charged with treason and taken to the Tower of London. You cross the moat surrounding the castle. You enter the outer wall through the Byward Tower gate. Then you walk along the stone pathway. You've reached to the Bloody Tower gate, which is entryway into the castle's inner wall. William is being held in the Bloody Tower. Once known as the Garden Tower, this building has earned a dark reputation. You climb several flights of stairs to get to your front cell. How are you, Will? You ask upon entering his room. He is sitting at the desk and reading a book. He looks tired, with dark circles under his eyes. You wonder how much weight he has lost in just a short time he's been there. Okay, he says with a weak smile. Then he looks down at his feet. What's wrong? They aren't torturing, are you? No, not for my crimes, he says. It's just that he looks up to meet your eyes. For supporting the rebellion, I'm going to be executed. When? You ask, shocked. In a matter of days, William replies. You can't believe what you're hearing. I will get you out of here, you whisper to your friend. You have no idea how you'll do it, but you promise yourself and him that you will. As your visit continues, he begins to sound more and more hopeful. You think of the way he looked when you first arrived. You think of how heartbroken his family would be if he was gone. There's no way you can fail him, but how will you free him? On your way out of the castle, you carefully observe the people around you. You hope they might give you some inspiration. You notice the elven warders in the bright red uniforms. King Henry VII formed his disorder in the guard at the tower after he won the War of the Roses in 1485. They are posted at each gate. Other patrol highways. They seem to freely go about their business. There are some people wandering around. You guess that some of them live in the castle grounds, but others, like you, must be here to see friends and family who've been imprisoned. You watch one couple walk through a tower gate. A yeoman stops the man and checks the package that he carries. The guard does not even question the woman. An idea is forming. You can have your friend disguise himself. He can put on a yeoman's uniform and simply walk right over the castle, or he can dress up as a woman and you can escort him out. So this is obviously a modern day picture, but this is what they were talking about, the guard and what they wear. So we have come to a point where you have to make a decision. Are we going to try to disguise them as a guard, or are we going to try to disguise your friend as a woman? All right, so we got a 3, which is even or odd. It's an odd number, so that means we're going to go with the top choice. We are going to try to disguise him as a guard. If you dress William as a guard, he will also be armed. The thought of a backup weapon gives you a sense of confidence and security. First, you need a yeoman's uniform. You bribe a local tailor to make you one. He makes some of the clothes for the nobles in the tower, and he knows what the uniforms look like in detail. You pay well. He works fast. Next, you need to sneak the uniform into William's cell. For that, you ask for help from another friend, Betty. Each of you hides a part of the disguise under your normal clothes. Betty also carries boots in the bag she covers with a blanket. All goes well when you enter the castle. Guards nod to you and walk through the gates. No one checks the bag that Betty carries. You head up the flight of stairs in William's room, and you quickly change where Betty stands guard. Everything is set. Now you just need to make it out of the castle. You and Betty will leave first, then William will follow. If all goes as planned, you'll meet on the other side of the moat. You walk down the stairway and then linger at the bottom. William is not far behind. People step aside out of respect. You hold your breath, and as you walk through the bloody tower, but no one stops you. Now go through the byward tower gate, and William will be free. But about halfway there, the outer gate, someone calls out, "You there! What are you doing here?" And you glance down to see a couple of guards blocking William's path. "I don't recognize you. I'm new," William tries to explain. The first guard shakes his head. Then he takes a closer look at William's face. "You look like the prisoner up in the bloody tower." William panics, and as the guard begins to grapple with him, you and Betty turn and walk calmly away. You cannot help him. You cannot afford to be captured. You have no other choice. That night, you receive news from William. His execution has been moved to the next day. Time is up. You lost the opportunity to save your friend. The end. So that was one ending of Could You Escape the Tower of London? So if you want to do the other endings where you dress up William as a woman, or you can see an ending where you go and try to help Alice instead, or even you're getting like a different reason why you're there. Maybe you are actually a prisoner there. You can check this book out. There is a part at the end of this where it tells you a little bit more about the tower, so I'm going to read that. The Tower of London. In 1066, William the Conqueror defeated several powerful English lords at the Battle of Hastings. With this victory, he sealed his claim to the English throne. William then went on to unite all of England under his rule. He served as the King of England until his death in 1087. William had the tower built on the outskirts of London, near the banks of the River Thames. The tower provided a place for William to rule from. It also protected the city from attack. As new rulers came into power, the castle grew. A ring of smaller towers was built around the White Tower. These towers were connected by walls to encircle the castle grounds, and an outer wall was eventually added. A moat was dug and filled with water from the River Thames. Other buildings were constructed, such as a chapel and barracks for soldiers. Over time, the single tower that William had built became a fortress. Today, all of its buildings and towers are collectively known as the Tower of London. Among the tower's many uses, it's best known for being a prison and a place for cruel torture. Its history of famous inmates and execution has been earned the Tower of London a reputation of being one of the most haunted places in the world. Many people believe that the spirits of people who were killed there roam the grounds. There are even stories of a ghostly bear believed to be once a part of the royal menagerie. Over the course of its history, thousands of people have been imprisoned in the castle. Prisoners range from traitors to the crown, to spies, assassins, corrupt government officials, religious heretics, and disposed kings and queens. Most were eventually released. Hundreds were executed for their crimes, and nearly 40 people actually escaped. The first to do so is Ranulph Lombard in 1100. He simply held a party for some of the guards and then snuck out while they were distracted. Others used disguises. Some escapees had ropes smuggled in and climbed down the castle walls. Prisoners have swum across the moat or had boats pick them up at the tower wharf. One inmate actually used orange juice as a visible ink to send secret messages to his friends to arrange an escape. The Tower of London did not have the security measures that modern-day prisoners have. As a result, many escape stories sound surprisingly simple and even somewhat unbelievable. But when they were taking place, prisoners were treated very differently. Most were allowed to roam the castle grounds without a guard watching over them. Some even bribed their guards to let them wander around by themselves. Wealthy people could have food and clothes brought into them. They gave them a chance to have items like ropes and weapons smuggled with other supplies. Today, the Tower of London serves other purposes. It's no longer used for the country's seat of power or as a prison. Now it's mostly a museum and a tourist attraction. Stories of ghosts lurking about its grounds and many strange escapes attempts attract visitors from all over the world. Some come to see the crown jewels, which are locked away in the jewel house, and it's an incredible place to visit and study. In here, you will also find some timeline information. And it kind of corresponds to the different choices that you can make. They also talk about different real escape attempts, including Rolf Flambard, which they talked about, and some other ones, some resources and other paths to explore if you're really interested in learning about it. So since we have a little bit of time, I'm just going to really quickly read about Rolf Flambard. I'm probably saying his name so incorrectly, but that's okay. He's not going to come and yell at me. Rolf Flambard became the Towerland's first prisoner. He was also the first escapee. Flambard was jailed for being a corrupt government official. Because he was wealthy, he could afford to have food and wine brought to him while he was imprisoned. In a barrel of oysters, he had a rope smuggled into the tower. One night, he invited the guards into his cell for a celebration. While the guards were busy, Flambard slipped away. He squeezed through the window and used the rope to lower himself to the ground. I don't know if they still make you climb the rope in gym class, but maybe it would be helpful to practice that if you, for some reason, ever have to escape from the Tower of London. But anyway, this one is, could you escape the Tower of London? And again, if you're interested in exploring some of the other endings, you can click on the link in the description, and it will bring you to this where you can place a hold on it. Have a great day.